Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, I'll show you how to use an NWF file in Autodesk Navisworks to link multiple models together and easily update them when the design changes. Okay, so this is one of the most efficient ways to manage coordination models, especially if you're working with multiple disciplines like architecture, structure, and MEP. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is understanding first the file types. So before we begin, as you can see here, I have the Snow Dawn Tower sample file in Revit. So I already federated this model and then put it here in Navisworks. So there are three different types or file types in Navisworks. The first one is NWC. Okay, so if I'm going to save as this project here and click this drop down, so as you can see, we have here NWD and then NWF. The other one is NWC. So the first one is NWC. So this is basically a cache file that automatically created when you open Revit, DWG, or IFC in Navisworks. Okay? So you can open directly these files in Navisworks and it will automatically create a cache file that's called NWC, or that's the extension file NWC. So this is a temporary data for faster loading in Navisworks. So as you can see, the files in Revit is too big, but when you open that and convert that file in NWC, it's really a small file size and really fast when you work on that model in Navisworks. So that's the first file type, NWC. So it's a cache file that automatically created when you open Revit, Drawing, or IFC. Now, the next one is NWF, which is what we are discussing right now. So it's about NWF. So NWF, this is basically the working file that stores links to models, viewpoints, if you have red lines, and clash tests. So we use the NWF file for coordination work. Okay, now the third one is NWD. So let's say, for example, you want to share the whole model to your client or to your other team members or to your contractors or subcontractors, or you just want to archive your model. So you convert your model to NWD, or you save it as an NWD file. NWD file, that is a published file. Okay, so it is the snapshot of the NWF at a specific time. Okay, so any changes that you made on your architectural model or structural or MEP, it will not affect your NWD. It will only affect the NWF. So that's why NWD is really good for sharing and archiving. But if you are doing coordination work, so it's better to use NWF. So it is a working file that stores links to models, viewpoints, red lines, and clash tests. Okay? So basically, NWF file doesn't contain the actual models, unlike your NWD. Okay? The NWF file, so it's just referencing the actual model. So it's like an XREF in AutoCAD or link in Revit. So that's why it's perfect for updating models without redoing your setup. Okay? All right, so let's do the exercise. Let me just close this one. So let me just create a new Navisworks. Okay, and then let me go to my Revit. So here's my Revit. So I'll just create a new Revit model here, or Revit project. So I'll just create a new one. I'll just use a metric multidiscipline, and then I'll just select here, okay. All right, so let's say, for example, I'll just create a wall here. So just a simple model. It doesn't need to be a fancy model for this exercise. You will get the idea. So I'll just create a rectangle here like that. That's it. And then after that, I'll just select here, modify. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this Revit to NWC file. I can actually open this Revit model in Navisworks directly or append it or open it. It's just the file size is too big if you're going to open Revit. Okay, it will take a few seconds. So that's why what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to convert this to NWC. Okay, so I just go to add-ins. So just make sure you have the add-ins for exporting Revit to Navisworks. So I have that installed. So I'm going to export that to a Navisworks file. So let's click that one. I'll just save it in my NWC file. Okay, so that's my architecture. Okay, so that's my architecture model. Save type is NWC. Okay, and then I'll just select here save. Okay, so now the next thing that I'm gonna do here is I'm going to open my Navisworks. And then after that, I'm going to append that model here. So here's my Navisworks. I'm gonna select here append. And then I'll select my exercise architectural model. So I save it here in the NWC folder, this one. And then I'll select here open. And there you go. So there's now my model. Now, the next thing that I'm gonna do is on my workflow, I'm now going to save this as an NWF. Okay, so I'll just go to manage or to my application button, and then I'm gonna save this as NWF. Okay, so let me go to my NWF folder. Let me change my save type to NWF. Okay, and then I'll just call this federated model. Okay, federated model, and then I'll just select here save. Okay, so now if I'm gonna close this one, so I'm gonna close this, or I'll just create a new project to close out this one. Okay, so I'll just create a new project here, or a new Navisworks project. Okay, so it's now closed. So what I'm gonna do is going back to my Revit here. Okay, so I'm gonna edit this one. Okay, so let me just hide these elements here. So right click, hide elements. Okay, right click, hide elements. There you go. I don't need these things here. All right. Okay, so I'm going to edit this one. So let's say I'll just add another wall. So wall. Okay, so I'll just create like that. Okay, modify, and then that's it. So now the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to update my NWC. So I select here add-ins, externals, Navisworks, and then I'm gonna update my architectural model, and then I'll just override it. So save, just select yes. Okay, so it's really fast because it's only NWC file. Now let me go to my Navisworks. So here I'm gonna open again the NWF file. I'll change this type to NWF. Navisworks file set. Okay, so I'll select this one, and then I'll select here open, and then as you can see, it's now updated. Okay, so if I'm going to open another model here, or let's say structural. Okay, so I'm gonna create a new file here. So I'll just select metric. Okay, for example, this is my structural model. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close my architectural model here. So I'm gonna save this. So that's my architectural model. Architectural model. So I'll just save it. So I'm going to link this architectural model to my structure, for example. So let me open my structural model here. So let me just hide this. Okay, so let me link my architectural model. So link my architectural model. I'll just put it at the center. Okay. Let me just go to my visibility graphic overrides. Why is it not showing? Is it because of my view range? So let's see my view range here. Okay, okay, all right. So associated level, let me just make this 2000 level above. 2,600. Okay. And then change my discipline. Where's my discipline here? Okay, architectural. There you go. All right. So here's my architectural model. So let's say I'm going to add here a structural floor. Okay, so I select structural floor. Let me just create that. 1, 2. And then I'm just gonna save it, finish, edit mode. Okay, in the 3D view. So this is how it looks like. So now I'm going to, I'll just hide my architectural model. So let me just right click and hide that. So here's my structural model. So I'm going to convert this or export that to an NWC file. So this is my structure. Okay. All right. And then let me just go to my Navisworks, and then I'm going to append here my structural. So let's go to my NWC, change that to NWC. So structure, I'll just open, and there you go. So there's my structural model. Okay. So I'm just going to save my NWF like that. Okay. And then after that, so let us, again, the process is the same. So rinse and repeat. So if you modify your structural model, so like, for example, you want to create an opening. So let me go to structure. I'll just create there a vertical opening or just a shaft opening. So like that. Oh, finish. Okay, so I'm gonna pull down. So there's an opening now. So I'm going to export it to NWC. Now, before I export this to an NWC file, so you need to close this one, okay? Because you will not be able to export it as an NWC file while your NWC here is open on your NWF, okay? Where your NWC is linked. So you need to close this. Otherwise, this is what will happen. So add-ins, external, let me override that. You see, if I override this, yes, so you will see this dialog box. Okay, you don't have any option but to select here OK, and it will tell you the reason why. Okay, because it's open. So that's the reason why. Okay, so you need to close your NWF where your structural model or architectural model is linked. So you need to close this. So it's either you create a new Navisworks project or just close your Navisworks. So in my case, I'll just create a new project so that it will close. So let's go back to my Revit, add-ins, Navisworks. Okay, so I'll just save it, override. Okay, so let me go back to my NWF folder. Okay, so let's click that. So it will be updated. So like that. Okay, so you can also append Revit model directly. So because a while ago, what we are doing is we are exporting this as an NWC, right? So let's say I'll create another project. So let me just close this project. Let me just save this as structure. Okay, here's my structure. So let's say, for example, I'm gonna create an MEP. Okay, so I'll create an MEP. So I'm going to create a new project, metric. Okay, and then let me just go to my mechanical, this here, mechanical level 1. And then I'm going to link my architecture, center to center. Okay, and then I'm gonna link as well my structure. Okay. All right. So let's say I want to add some air terminal here. So I go to the systems, I go to air terminal, and then I'm going to put an elevation. So let's say 2000. Okay. So I'll use this one. Huh? Too small. Okay, so I'll just use this one. So I'll just put a return and then supply. Okay, supply. All right. So in 3D view, this is how it looks like, right? So here, I'm just gonna hide my link models. Okay, so let me just hide those link model. I don't want to see all of these elements. All right, so here's my MEP, for example, or my mechanical. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to save this. Okay, so let me just save this as my mechanical. So mech, and then save. All right, so now that it's saved, so what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna close this one, my mechanical. So what I'm gonna do is I'll go to Navisworks and then I'm going to append it here, okay? So I'm gonna append my Revit. So I can open the Revit directly. So where's my RVT? This one. So there's my mechanical, then I'll just open. Okay? The problem there is, since it's Revit, so it's kind of, the loading is taking some time because it's a big file. If it is Revit comparing to NWC file is really small file size. That makes it ideal to do coordination. So it would be better you just convert it as an NWC file. But you can actually use a Revit. It's just, as you can see, imagine if you have a really big file and then you're going to append that to Navisworks. So it will take a lot of time. So, but you can open actually, okay? You just need to wait, okay? And then I'm gonna show you the difference if you're going to use Revit. So as you can see, here's now my air terminal, right? So there's my air terminal now, okay? So here, there's the NWC, and then there's your Revit, right? So here, if I go back to my Revit, and then let's say, for example, I'm going to add here, or let's say I'm gonna move this up because I think it didn't change the elevation. So let me change that to 2000. Okay, and then after that, so let's say I'm going to create here a duct. Okay, so duct. So there's my, I'll just create a duct here like that. Okay, like that. Oops. So I'll just create a duct like that. Okay, and then I'm just going to connect this, connect into, okay, so I'll just connect into, all right. Okay, so connect into, okay, let me just connect all of this. All right, and then let's say I want to convert that to a flexible duct. Convert to flexi duct. Okay. All right, so in 3D view, so this is how it looks like. Okay, so after that, I'm just going to save this. Okay, so as you can see, if you open your Revit or append it directly to Navisworks, even if you do not close this one, okay, you can actually update your Navisworks without without closing your NWF. So to update your mechanical here, what you can do is you can click the refresh button there. Okay, so refresh button. Or if you close your NWF file, when you open it, all the files here are already updated. But if it is a mechanical Revit or Revit file, you can do this workflow. Okay, you can append your Revit model, do the changes here on your Revit model, save it, and then after that, you can select refresh. So if you refresh that, as you can see, it will now be updated. Okay, you can do that. So again, so this is what I don't like appending Revit model because it takes a lot of time. So I still prefer using NWC file. So as you can see, it's now updated, right? Okay. So if I want to update my architectural model, so let me go here. I'll just close this one and then let me open my architectural model. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, let's say I'm just going to move it here like that, and then I'm going to export it as an NWC file. So I'm just gonna close this one. So I'll just create a new project. I'll just save this. Okay, so now I can export this again as an NWC. All right, so it's now updated. So when I go to when I open again my NWF open, so it's updated now. So it's more faster, right? Now, what if I save this as an NWD? Okay, what if it is NWD? So let's say once the coordination is complete, you can now publish a static NWD file for sharing. So I'm now gonna save this as an NWD. Go here. Okay, so this will be NWD. Save. Okay, so if I change my architectural model here, so let's say I already saved, right? And then I'll just create a new project to close this federated NWD file. So I'm gonna create a new one. So let me go to architectural. So let's say I want to add a door. So I want to add door here. Okay, so door. Okay, like that. All right, so I'm gonna save this and then I'm going to export it and update my NWC. So NWC, let me update my architecture, save. Okay, so I'm gonna open my NWD, open up, NWD. As you can see, doesn't change anything. Okay, because NWD file is a lightweight shareable that contains all the viewpoints and markups. It's a static NWD file that we use for sharing. So it's perfect for issuing to the consultants or to the contractors. So this is now your NWD file. So it didn't update. But if you open your NWF, 100% that is updated because it contains the link. Okay, you see, there's the door. Your NWD, it doesn't contain any link, but it is the whole model. Okay, it contains all the model. It's the snapshot of your project that is ready for you to share to other consultants or contractors. But if you are doing coordination, so it's better to use, or it's best to use your NWF file. So let's say this is your latest model. Okay, so you can now save this as another NWD file if you want to update your client, so you can give this to them. So you just need to override your NWD. Okay, that one. So just override. So you will now have your updated NWD file. Okay, right? So, and that's it. So you just learn how to use NWF files in Navisworks for linking, managing, and updating your coordination models efficiently. Okay? So, thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.